build it, you demolish it. The legendary Home Wrecker Burrito. Come build yours today with 20+ fresh ingredients.
First online order, 10% off. Promo code ONLINE.
Welcome back to another season of Over the Boards. I'm your host, Hailey Parker, and I'm here with head coach of the Icepack, Tim Healy. Coach, good to be beside you, actually, in a room together.
It is great. Last year it looked like we were, but we're superimposed together through the work with Chris Lehman. So, yes, we are in the same space this year. It's great.
Yes, and it's crazy because I feel like we just wrapped up talking about last season. So, quick turnaround there, but ready to jump back in and talk about what's happened so far.
That's a good problem that the season went longer.
Yes.
We had a good year, so
exactly.
Shorter off seasons mean success.
Right. Well, just a reminder that Over the Boards is sponsored by Moe's. So if you guys are feeling hungry, you can give them a call at 919-999-399 or visit their website at 919.catering.moes.com. All right. You ready?
That's pretty good memory.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, said it a few times. So first, I just wanted to talk about, as we just said, the quick turnaround between the spring and the summer. Did you guys have tryouts? What was that like? And can you talk about some of the new faces that you guys have on the Icepack?
Well, I think you hit on something in that. You jokingly said it feels like we just left off. Even for that, in some ways, it felt like that for us this year because we did go in later in the year. We did go into mid-April, and then we had summer skates going by the end of June, rolling into the tryouts in August. So what I think has been awesome for myself and as a coach, but I think the team would share this too, is it really did feel like we just picked up where we left off. Keep in mind, last year was my first year with myself and Mira and Rosetto,
right.
Kind of with that, with the head coach and the new assistant. So putting in, our systems and stuff like that, where, all that's in. And we have such a great core returning group great culture, great leadership in the locker room. So it really did feel like this year we just picked up where we left off. And I think you've seen that so far in the early results. You asked about the new guys. We do have, we do have 9 new faces. And this really gives us the best depth that we've ever had. Our 4th and 5th line guys, almost any other year, would be top 9 forwards. But they're just fighting to get in the lineup this year. So we have depth like we haven't had before, especially on offense. On defense, we actually had to do a little bit of reshuffling. We actually moved Alex Robinson back to D. He actually plays D in roller hockey, so it's a bit more natural. We paired him up with Jackson Cowan, who's returning, who is a real stay-at-home defenseman, so that's proven to be a great pair. We picked up in a lot of ways right where we left off, but with much more added depth. I think for people that come out and see us or have already seen us would say this is the best team we've ever had, which is, again, a testament to the new guys rounding out that core.
Absolutely. So jumping right into the first game of the season, you guys played UNC Chapel Hill, school rival at home, and you guys won 10-3. Big win there. So first of all, I just want to talk about the fans at Weight Competition Center. It was sold out that game, a record 1,300 fans. Can you talk a little bit about that turnout for that game, what it means to have fans back, supporting the
Yeah, I mean, obviously, that was our largest non-PNC arena crowd ever because our former homes couldn't hold that many people. And truthfully, WCC could hold some more, but we've still cut off a little bit of attendance to create some spacing, particularly for the teams. But to have our home crowds back and that boisterous, and we're playing UNC, and there's a little sprinkling of blue, but not too much. It was awesome, and I think for our guys that you think about it, half the team has never experienced a home NC State crowd. So even our sophomores, I remember Eric Daniel after the game, when he was talking about transfer, and I spoke to him about our crowds after the game. He was like, "Wow, you were right." I was like, "Yeah." And then Alex James, who's a new player, he's he's a really good new defenseman. And when he was making a choice this summer to come to state or go play in the NCDC, I talked to him a little bit about the crowds, and I remember him coming out of the bench and just kind of taking that look around, because it's not just the size; they're boisterous, they're into it, they're passionate.
Which helps a lot.
Absolutely, you had Derek Wittenberg there, and you had, we even had the mascot there. I mean, it was awesome for a lot of these guys. It was, something they hadn't experienced before, and it does. And it definitely does give us an advantage, and it works in other ways too. The next night when we went to Liberty, they get a huge crowd too.
True.
Our guys, okay, we've played in front of this many people before. Let's go. It doesn't intimidate them like it does some teams coming in.
Right. The starting lineup for that game, can you talk about your thought process through that? I know it's still early days in terms of the season, but as you just said, you have a lot of good people that could easily be starting. So can you just talk about how you went through that first starting lineup for the first game of the season?
Yeah, who to have in the lineup. Everything's a competition every day. Everything's earned. I don't think we've actually put out the same. We've put out the same defensemen. There aren't as many choices to be had on the D end. But we haven't put out the same set of 12 forwards twice yet this year. Well, actually, that's true. At Delaware, we did. But for the most part, those are the only two games that were the same, and they weren't the same as any. Every week's a competition to get those lineup spots. Even, and every little thing counts, whether it's your sprints in practice. But we do think we're seeing some guys like Zach Robinson, Alex's younger brother. Now that we're seeing him in the games, we're seeing, he's a really smart player and finds spaces. A guy like Nick Cosentino is really good in the defensive zone. A guy like, especially defensive zone faceoffs. New freshman by the name of Emery Oliver, who has been probably the surprise from the beginning of the year because, he's a local guy, but he went off to Princeton Day School. And so he's, the last 2 years he was up there, so kind of not on a ton of radars. Yeah. And obviously prep hockey didn't do a lot last year, so, he's got a couple goals already. He's been awesome on the penalty kill. So it's just a lot of competition. Avery Schaefer, who's a transfer in from UNC Charlotte, he was on their team that won the title a couple of years ago, so that brings in that pedigree. Right. So it's really competitive, and to answer your question, it's each week who is showing the most in practice, who's the fit for the team that we're going to play this week.
Absolutely. And then, so that UNC game had 6 different goal scorers. And, I have the whole list. Parker Zarok, of course. Colby Peterson had 3. You talked a little about Emery Oliver, who had his first assist. So these are all Matt Miller also. These are all names that we recognize as returners. So after this game, going into the rest of the season, what kind of confidence does that give you in terms of the rest of the season on offense?
Well, I think it's something we did actually speak a lot about last year in the locker room is we really weren't getting scoring past sometimes just one line, sometimes 2, but we really struggled to get scoring through 3 and 4. Emery Oliver's on the 4th line. Garrett Arini, I think, has had a point in every game on that 3rd line. You've had Charles Monteith up at Delaware get a couple goals off that 3rd line. So, at one point when we were up at Delaware, Chris Solomon was on the bench, and we had scored 3 goals, and I don't think any of the top dogs from last year had scored a goal yet. And they did. They got theirs eventually. But Solomon was like, this is nice. We don't have to, it was like, if they don't score, we didn't win. Yeah. Now, if they don't score, you mentioned the 6 different goal scorers. That's 6 different goal scorers in all 4 lines and D.
Right.
So that's huge, and that makes us really tough to match up against too.
Yes. So moving on to game number 2 of the season, you guys were away at Liberty the day after you guys played UNC, and you fell short with a score of 8-4 against their D1 team. We've talked about their D1 team and D2 team a lot last season, just kind of the difference there. With traveling, you needed fresh legs. I'm sure that was on your mind. And after the first period, the Icepack was up 3-1. It was a strong first period for the Icepack. Garrett Arini scored along with Parker and Solomon. So what did you see in this first period from your defense that allowed Liberty to only have 1 goal, especially because it was their D1 team?
Well, I think more so than anything else, I think last year when we went up there, it was our first game of the year, and they kind of punched us in the mouth a bit. And we even spoke about, like, after the game, it's like, yeah, we scored 2 goals that game, but it's like we never had the puck.
Yeah.
And anyone that was watching that game, we controlled periods of that game. Ultimately, we saw a 4-goal game, but that game really kind of swung on 2 plays, which we can get into later. But for us, it was the whole team came out physical, executing, putting pucks in, cliche, right? Putting pucks in deep. But we're really going on the attack and really going on the offensive and, pushing back, where last year we got pushed around by them a bit. And I think that actually gained a lot of respect for them going throughout the game. We're up 3-1 after the first. I don't know how much more you want to talk about the game, but, it was kind of one of those things where as it went on, even though they're ACHA D1 a lot of time, they're run like an NCAA Division I team. I think them being on the ice 5 days a week for practice, you kind of saw that come to bear as the game wore on. But it's a game we took a lot of confidence out of. And, if, when the game ended and, they were hopping over the boards winning, they were acting like they won a super huge game. And it was like, okay, this is good. This means it meant something. And they felt like they earned it, which obviously they did. We led for a long part of that game.
Yeah. Moving into the second period, it was really back and forth, and there was it was pretty scrappy in the third too. A lot of 4v4, so it really showed, as you said, that both teams are really fighting for it. From this game, what did this loss teach your team that you can tell them as a lesson for the rest of the season?
Well, you talk about the second period, and I like how he answered back, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was back, the whole game, we were up 1-0, and 1-1, and 3-1, and then they went up 4-3, and we had just a beautiful goal off the face-off by Matt Miller that tied it back up at 4. They went up 5-4, and, we had a 5-on-3, and Riley, doesn't miss many backdoor 5-on-3 chances. And actually, when we looked in the video, if you slid it over, Colby was right there too. So, that's one of the plays that game swung on, right? Like, if Riley buries it, we're 5-5 going into the third, right? Totally different game. Then you go into the third, and we had a 2-on-1, and at that point, it was still 5-4, and Garrett Arini, takes a shot that comes out and goes the other way, and they score to make it 6-4. Again, if Garrett buries that, again, we're tied. If so, and at that point where it's kind of where the gas went, it hit 6-4.
Right.
So really, 2 plays in my mind really swung that game in Liberty's favor. So, but what we took away from it is they're a top 5 team in Division I right now, and if you look at the scores that they're beating ranked Division I teams by, they're pounding. They beat a Division I team the night before, 9-0. So that's a huge takeaway for us. That if we can skate with that level, then we. And it was the type of game last year where, if you go back to the Mary game, where they really push us around physically. And I don't know how much fight we had back in that game physically. Liberty's a lot like Mary, and it showed us, okay, we've learned those lessons to move forward.
Absolutely. And then just real quick before we take a break, we talked about the new players, but as we've mentioned, a few very familiar names. You do have a deep roster of a lot of returning players. Can you talk about just how important it is to have not necessarily such a fresh roster, but having the same guys, know how the season goes, and kind of like post-COVID getting back into like a normal schedule?
Well, absolutely. I mean, and that comes with the picking right up where we left off, whether it be systems or stuff like that. Obviously, you have Sullivan back. You have Riley back. And these guys, you take Riley and Parker and Alex, guys that came in, Miles Ferrone that came in on that unbeaten team. Like, this is their last ride, right? Like, they set a goal for 4 ACHL titles in 4 years. They feel that we can get over that hump, that final summit to win a national title. So that leadership group is really dialed in and has the locker room set. And then another guy that, if you think about it, this is Colby Peterson's 3rd year, but the first year he only came in 2nd semester. Last year, he really sprained his ankle quite badly, and then when he got back, he got COVID. So we didn't have him full speed, and you look in game 1, boom, hat trick. So he's, to have him healthy for the whole year is a huge difference maker.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Over the Boards.
Welcome to the
We build it, you demolish it. The legendary Homewrecker Burrito. Come build yours today with 20+ fresh ingredients.
First online order, 10% off. Promo code ONLINE.
Welcome back to Over the Boards. I'm your host, Hailey, here with head coach of the Icepack, Tim Healy. We just finished up talking about the Liberty game, and next up for game number 3 was home against Stevenson. The week before that, you guys were going to play Merrimack, but it got canceled. But that game was a blowout game, and you guys won 12-0, which was a great match. I feel like in this game, the thing that stood out to me was the white jerseys. That was when you showcased them, and I'm very tempted to get one. I have a feeling that there will be one in my closet very soon. But can you talk about those?
Icepackhockey.com.
Yeah,
on sale now.
by the way. Can you talk about who designed those? And I knew that there was like a little bit of a backstory with them.
Yeah, well, the design was once again by Eric Todd, and obviously with input, and there's a few elements, design elements that are really worth noting. The number one thing is, yes, the canes have it too, but the monochromatic white flag on the shoulder. But we talked about that because obviously the canes have that on their black jersey. But what really it represents us in a whole different way. Our guys take a lot of pride in that we are 80% made up of North Carolina players. And that's a huge pride point for us. And we feel that when we go outside of the state that, we're representing not just NC State, but we're representing in a lot of ways the youth programs of North Carolina. We have kids from the Greensboro programs, the Charlotte programs, the Raleigh programs. And so carrying that North Carolina flag with us on our jerseys wherever we go, that means something a lot to the guys. Other design stuff, I love the monochromatic wolf on the other shoulder, but with the red eye.
Yes,
There's something fierce to that. The collar, it's just a good, clean, sharp design. But yet still having kind of the traditional college look with the name across the front with the number underneath it. So we want it so a mix of clean, sleek that befits kind of the program. And so we were excited to show those off. Our guys have really gotten, even last year, if you notice, we wore the whites more. Our guys have gotten into wearing the whites more for whatever reason. And our old whites, it was just, they were pretty beat up, so it was just time to bring something new in, and that matched. And we also wanted something different than the red. The red is logo heavy in the front, so this obviously has Icepack written across the front. So, kind of both sets are a little bit different. But yeah, we're really pumped with how that white jersey came out. Again, you can have your own customized whatever you want, name, number.
Pretty cool.
So can you. Yeah, so we were pretty pumped to have those out, and we're going to break them out first, Kentucky on Saturday night. And we have Penn State next week, and we know how much Penn State loves wearing anything white.
Yes.
So we're not going to let that happen. We're going to break out the whites at home again next week versus Penn State. So yeah, it was a great game to break those in. Stevenson, credit to them, they came down with a short roster. We're not the type of team that you want to come down with 11 skaters with.
Yeah.
But, they beat us 2 years ago, and so I think the guys were pretty fired up to get some measure of revenge in that one, and well, they did.
Yes. Well, I think it would take me a solid 5 minutes just to name out all the people who scored and all of that. But by the end of the second period, the Icepack had 41 shots on goal compared to only 9 for Stevenson. So that obviously says a lot about the offense. But what about the defense? What were they doing right?
Well, that was a game that we were able to control the forecheck a lot. So what they were doing is really holding the blue line, pinching down, hunting down. People don't realize how important defensemen are actually on the offensive attack. Like, they don't just stand on the blue line the whole time when you're offensive zone. It's like, how do they turn back the attack? How do they set up the regroups to go all the way back in? And we've talked a lot about on our team in neutral zone entries and neutral and defensive zone exits, and that's something they've been doing a really good job on. We actually have a PhD analytics guy this year out of New England who's tracking all that stuff. And I mean, we're talking packages. I can tell you who offensive zone, defensive zone, what the resulting play was. So just having that intel to feed back to the guys, and going back to that game itself, again, that was a game where the D didn't have to do much in the defensive zone, but they did a lot in the neutral zone and the offensive zone of keeping the play going.
Absolutely. Next up, you guys traveled to Delaware with a doubleheader where you won 6-4 and 7-1. I don't remember who it was, but they said it was like a 12-hour bus ride, but it's actually like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So hopefully that wasn't too bad.
No. Well, it was 7. And actually, I flew up because we had St. Mary's School. We had our parents' weekend, so I couldn't leave. It was a half-day Friday, so I couldn't leave till noon. So it was a 0-hour bus ride for me.
Okay. Well,
great.
you got
nice flight.
the lucky end of the stick.
So go Delta. But anyway, so not a bad bus ride.
Good.
So they tell me. But the other thing is, when we went up there a couple of years ago, our bus driver got a speeding ticket. There was traffic. Like, there was no time for a pregame meal. They ended up just eating chicken McNuggets as they're flying in the arena. This time we got up in plenty of time, a couple hours ahead of time, had our traditional, when we go into those things, Jersey Mike's was there waiting for us. We did pick up 220 pieces to share as a team, as tradition, because the last time we went up there we won, so hockey players are superstitious. But I will say this, it is tough to play that first night after a long bus ride.
Yeah.
And I think you see that in the scores from the weekend, 6-4 Friday night versus 7-1 Saturday night.
Yeah.
So, that first game was a really good road win where you didn't have your A game and you kind of grinded it out. I think, some of our third and fourth line scoring was key in that one till our power play got established. And, right now our power play it's pretty disgusting. We've scored 16 power play goals on the year already, 16 of 31 or 32, so it's clicking over 50%. And that's with an 0 for 8 against Liberty's Division 1. So if you take Liberty Division 1 out of it, you're talking almost a 70% clip. And what I like about our power play right now, it's not just, you look at the Washington Capitals vaunted power play with Ovi. It's really just Ovi from that one spot. Right now, it's more akin to when Tampa's going, when you got Stamkos and Kucherov and Point in the middle. It's like, okay, you got Parker going, and you've got Solomon going, and you've got Riley going, and then they're coming off, and you're sending on. There's been some good chemistry with Robinson, James, and Peterson, and Miller, and that grouping. So Arini scored power play goals. So it's like, pick your poison right now. And so in that game, one after. Not a great first period. We still had the lead, but that's when our power play was able to exert itself and, take some control of that game. And Delaware, this is probably the best team that they've had in a few years, so we were pumped for it.
Yeah.
We knew it would be our first real big Division II test in the Southeast District. So our guys are pumped and ready for it, and I think Friday night they did a good job of getting, a gritty bus legs win.
I feel like you guys don't have the best luck when it comes to away transportation.
I will say this year, the Delaware bus trip was completely smooth.
Perfect.
No issues whatsoever. No traffic. Could not have been better. And in fact, even Wi-Fi was working for live streaming and TV, so we were able to, on Saturday when we had some time, catch college football with the guys on the bus. On the back, they had the Alabama-Texas A&M game, so yeah, everything was good this summer.
Life was good. Well, I just want to talk about Parker Zarok for a second because in the second game, he scored his 100th point in the ACHA. We've talked about Parker a little bit, but it's no secret that he's a weapon on the ice. So can we talk about what you've seen from him freshman year to now, his growth, and what he means to have on the ice?
Well, I think the best part about Parker is we know that it's not a secret, but I think a lot of other teams don't really, because Riley is such a flashy player, right? Solomon was the All-American, but Parker, right? Like, he's right behind them in career points, and Parker is, maybe up with Tyler Alfonsetti, is the best penalty killer we've ever had come through here, and Eric Todd would be in that class too. So, and Todd and Parker are healthy together. Forget about it. But people forget about Parker. And the best thing about Parker is he may be our most complete player in all three zones. Whether it's below the goal line in the D zone, as the F1 come back in the D zone, he's really the straw that stirs the drink in a lot of ways, with just his play in all three zones. I think face-offs, he's up around 68% this year. So, those are so many little things. So I was really happy to throw that puck to him when he got that milestone. Yeah. He didn't even realize he was approaching it until that week. And so that was awesome for Parker. And, he's also the president this year, and he's doing a great job. Oh, yeah, he's doing a great job on that, taking over from Ian, which is a large responsibility. Yeah. We've become an organization that, if you look at expenditures, it's up over $100,000 a year now that he's managing. And not so subtle, we also have to raise all that. So Icepack.com, you can donate as well. Or just buy a jersey. It's great working with Parker. It's great to see Parker getting the on-ice accolades that he deserves. Absolutely. Because he's a heck of a player.
Right. Heading into this weekend, you guys have another doubleheader against the University of Kentucky. What have you seen from Kentucky so far this season that you can talk about with your team and prepare for?
Yeah,
this
I
weekend?
think the first thing is if you going back to Delaware for a second, and that second Delaware game where it was 7-1, that was the game that probably the game that we've hit on all cylinders more than any other game. And so being able to carry that into this week is really key. And that's another one where we had all 4 lines going again. We had scoring from 3 of the 4 lines, if not 4.
Right.
So carrying that in. Our goaltending's been great. Our power play, penalty kill. So the fact that we are firing on all cylinders coming into this week is really key because Kentucky is a team that when I look at Kentucky, and actually when I looked at film, it's a lot like looking at us, and maybe where we were a year ago, the year before. What I mean by that is huge fan base. They regularly sell their games, 700 people, their Midnight Mayhem, great following, great jersey sales. But they also are getting results on the ice now that match that. They're 7-1. They have, what I will say is, they're a little bit more top heavy than we are, and they're maybe a little bit like we were last year, the year before in terms of being top heavy. They have a first line that is as good as any line around, and a guy by the name of Icepack on their first line. So if you're watching a game tomorrow night, I think in a lot of ways, if number 13 on Kentucky gets going, that's going to be problematic for us. If we can, keep him in that top line in check, that's good. That bodes well for us. Last week in a Louisville showcase, they went 3-0. They beat Virginia Tech, who I think is probably the second best team in the ACCHL, 6-2. So they're a good team. They're a good test. I know they're pumped for coming down for us because they see it. There's almost like a little bit of a, for the last couple of years, we've been one of the teams with Florida Gulf Coast and Liberty that have carried a bit of the mantle in the Southeast, Cincinnati being another one, and they're trying to jump up into that group. And they think this is the team that can jump them up in that group. So I think about when we went down to Florida Gulf Coast last year and we were kind of trying to get to that next level and knew that if we could get a win off them, that would kind of put us in a different category as a team. I think Kentucky sees that as that chance this weekend. I actually know they see just from what's going out there.
Yeah.
So they're going to be pumped up. They're going to be hungry. They're going to be confident. And it's going to be a great test. I think a key for us is, they're going to have those bus legs we spoke about in Delaware. Is we have to really execute and play hard and fast on Friday night to get that game, to get a result in that game and to hopefully force Kentucky to carry those bus legs over into the next game. So I think tomorrow night can really be a key to setting up the whole weekend for us.
Absolutely. If you guys haven't already, go buy your tickets for the games on Friday and Saturday at their website. Very important. Also fundraising, Just to close us out, quick, this is not over the boards without talking about a little food. And we have the NC State Fair here in town this week. Favorite fair food, list them off.
You got to go with the fried Oreos. Just classic Southern, but fried Oreos, you can't go wrong there.
No, you cannot.
And then the big fresh squeezed lemonade that you have to take a small bank loan out for. So those would be probably my 2 favorites. Also love a good, down here it's more the funnel cake, or I like fried dough a little bit more. That's maybe the Italian roots from New York with the Zapolas, but those would be my go-tos.
Good.
What about you?
I tried a fried honey bun last night for the first time.
And how was that? Do you have
scared.
diabetes?
No, I was scared, but it was really not that bad. I enjoyed it.
You were scared. Way to be brave.
Yes.
So any other? So I haven't gone this year. How was it overall?
It was good. A lot of people, but it was nice just to walk around. See the fair. You have to go to the fair. So. That is it for this episode of Over the Boards. Thank you for joining me, Coach. As always. It is a pleasure. We will catch you guys next time. If you want to hit up Moe's, call 919-999-399 or visit their website at 919.catering.moes.com. We'll see you guys next time. Go Pack.